Hello and welcome back to Never Change. Here we'll be reviewing my SolarEdge solar panel system. So my solar panel system consists of 14 JA Solar Jam 60S02 295 watt panels, which can produce a maximum of 4.13 kilowatt hours. My inverter is a SolarEdge 3.8 kilowatt inverter. The reason why it's 3.8 is because in the UK, if you have an inverter over 3.8 kilowatt, you need planning permission in order to have it installed. And that's mainly because they need to make sure that the local grid can handle more than 3.8 kilowatt being pumped out locally. My panels also have the SolarEdge optimizers on them, so that means that if one of the panels is being shaded for some reason, it'll have no impact on the other panels. And also the SolarEdge system gives you cloud-based monitoring. Now for the savvy amongst you, you would have noticed that so my system produces 4.13 kilowatt hours, but my inverter can only handle 3.8. And the reason why I went for this is because solar panels naturally degrade over time, so you lose about 1% per year on average. So if you had a maximum output of your solar panels at 3.8 kilowatt, by the time you hit the 10-year mark, you would only be 90% efficient. Whereas because I've started at 4.13 kilowatt, I have a bit of headroom before it starts impacting what my inverter can output. So I've calculated it so at the 10-year point, instead of a 10-year 10% loss of efficiency, I would only lose about 2.4%. The aesthetics, so luckily the south side of my house is the rear, so you don't see the solar panels from the front of the house, and my inverter is located in the loft. The panels that I went for 30 months ago were considered premium panels as well, so they do look quite nice, well, as far as looks on panels go. My house is not directly south facing, it's more southwest or verging on south-southwest or southwest-west. That means that instead of getting a 100% efficiency, I get about 95%. So I lose about 5% due to the orientation of the house, which is not really that big an impact. So the SolarEdge app I find quite good, very easy to use, very informative. So as you open the app, you'll be met with this screen which shows you how much you're producing at that moment in time, how much your house is consuming, and how much you're exporting to the grid. Or if the panels are not producing enough to meet your house consumption, then you'll see an arrow pointing the other way in what you're importing from the grid. And then you get the total for the day, total for the month, and total for the lifetime. Below that you get a graph showing your self-consumption, your export, and your import. This is very helpful when you're looking to try and optimize your self-consumption, which is the name of the game with your solar system. So you're trying to cram as much into that green hump as possible. The more self-consumption you get, the quicker you will pay back your solar system. So, and in order to do that, what you would have to do is things like, so you would put the washing machine on at 12, when that finishes, then do the dishwasher, when that finishes, do something else that consumes a lot of electricity. Cram as much as possible into that time period. The chart, you can also switch from day to week to month to year. Year I find quite helpful now that I've had it for a long time, to see how we're doing for the year in regards to efficiency. And you can also select the panel layout. So that's what you see on the right there. So the panel layout is good for ensuring that your system is working correctly. So on this one, I put it on the what each panel had been producing for the month, and so I was looking for about 10 kilowatt per panel, and so it's roughly in and amongst that range. So if one panel was only showing like 5 kilowatt, you'd know that there's something wrong with that panel. So it was roughly 30 months ago when I had my system installed. I went with Eon Solar, and I went for what they called at the time the classic package, which included all of the SolarEdge system and the panels at 4.13 kilowatt. So they give me a £257 discount off the list price. So I paid $6,400 for it, which at the time, if you calculated in the savings, it resulted in about a 14-year return of investment. But that was based on no cost increases for the cost of per unit of electricity, and no increase in how much you would get for your export tariff. So my 2019 results didn't do too well here, so we were still learning how to maximize to use the system efficiently. So we self-consumed 990 kilowatts, so that was instead of importing, so saved 14p per kilowatt hour, so that equates to £138.60. Managed to export 2,720 kilowatts, so we got 4p per kilowatt on export, so that's £108.80, and the feed-in tariff that you get every single year. I don't believe you can get that anymore. I think that ran out pretty much around the time that I had my system installed. So that resulted in actual savings for 2019 of £394.40. If you go off the estimate that they give me, I didn't quite make what they were estimating, but I believe that was our fault rather than the system's fault, because we just weren't maximizing our self-consumption. 2020, much better. So we managed to self-consume 1,610 kilowatts. The price had also gone up, so we saved £257.60. We managed to export 2,310 kilowatt. I moved my fit supplier to another supplier, so got slightly more. I think it was about 5p per kilowatt hour, so that resulted in £115.50. Feed-in tariff, so maximum savings of £520.10. So if you compare that to estimate, we was well above the Eon's estimate of what we should be saving. My projection for 2021 is even better, only because again the price of electricity has gone up, so that has resulted in £552.30, well above the estimate for a 14-year return of investment. So in my conclusion, I did a very rough calculation to see where with the current cost of electricity and an increase of roughly 6% per year, where the return of investment would fall. So the return of investment would fall on the 11th year, but that was making the assumptions that the price for me to export my electricity would be fixed at 5p. I could actually get 5.5p now, so I would assume that will continue to rise as the years go by, so that would impact positively impact my return of investment. It's also based on my 2020 efficiencies of 40% self-consumption. I believe we can do better, so that should help reduce the return of investment. There's no battery on the system, mainly because batteries are still too expensive. So the cheapest I could find for a relatively good battery was about 2,500, which would give a 2.4 kilowatt battery, and that's off the same supplier who installed it, so they'd be doing it as an addition. But even then, you're still looking at, you know, adding at least 2 to 3 years on your return of investment. And also, I didn't have an EV. I do now, and so that should positively impact more self-consumption and reduce the return of investment of the system. Just for fun, I very speculatively projected out to what the savings, or what I would make up to 20 years. There's huge margin for error here though. 11 years pay back the system, and then it's looking at around £8,000 over the life of the system that you would ultimately make on top of your initial investment. So I also had a quick look at because my system was put in 30 months ago. So what is out there at the moment? So I had to look at the supplier that installed my system, Eon Solar. My concern just that are on offer at the moment is they're looking at installing a 2.6 kilowatt system. Why you would go for a 2.6 kilowatt system at those prices, I've got no idea. You know, it doesn't get anywhere near the 3.8 kilowatt that you're allowed. So I had a quick look at some of the competitors as well, and I've found UPS Solar. Don't know this company at all. So if you are looking at this to see whether a solar system's for you, do your due diligence on who you would pick to install yourself. But these look like incredible prices, really. They very good value. I mean, you're literally getting the system that I've got, so the solar PV system without a battery, for almost 2,000 less than I paid for it, which is pretty phenomenal. And you could actually have a 4 kilowatt solar system with a battery for £265 less than I paid for mine, which again is in my opinion is a really good offer. But I don't know I don't know the company. Yeah, so I think there are good solar deals to be had out there. Would I have a system installed today? I believe I would. I don't think it's impacted my life or our lives that much, and in the long run I do believe with the current cost increases in energy and the ability to sell what energy you create and export, the return of investments will go right down, and at those prices on the right, I think it would be silly not to. So thank you and goodbye.